He was part of the team which invented the pregnancy test. He's working on a new treatment for bowel cancer. And now Professor Paul Davies has designed a new bandage based in part on the chemistry of honey.
Yes, Professor Davies claims it heals wounds more quickly than standard dressings. In the last of our series on pioneers, Graham Satchell has been to meet him.
We have transformed the ingredients into something that delivers a new healing principle.
Paul Davies is talking about honey. He has taken part of its chemical structure to transform the lives of countless patients. Patients like Leonard Halstead, who had a growth removed from his leg. The resulting wound stubbornly refused to heal. After several months, Paul's new treatment was tried. Now, a warning. We're going to show you some pictures of Leonard's leg. It's not as bad as it sounds. As you can see, over the period of just a few weeks, the wound started to clear up.
It's the most photographed part of my body. It was quite miraculous, really. The speed with which it worked, that the inflammation was contracting, the pain was diminishing within days. And within a week or two, it had gone completely.
It has to interact with the air.
So how does it work? Using honey as part of his inspiration, Paul has developed a way of putting both iodine and oxygen into a wound, using 2 layers of gel that slowly interact.
And at that point, we have a double whammy, because the iodine will kill bacteria and the oxygen will empower the white blood cells to kill bacteria naturally using our own bodily defences. When we heard about the first patient for whom it was improving, then there were just like whoops of joy, just like the Formula One pit lane when somebody comes in first.
The NHS spends a remarkable 4% of its budget, £2 billion, treating people with wounds that won't heal.
Most of the patients that I see have had them for quite long durations.
Like how long?
Sometimes they can be 6 months, 12 months, 10 years, 20 years. It all depends on how long they've been living with that.
20 years?
20 years.
In Staffordshire, where the treatment is being trialled, Julie Stanton has found it successful in 70% of patients.
It's fantastic. The patients in particular, they've got to a point where they don't think it's ever going to heal, and then you do use something, you introduce something that has quite a positive effect within quite a short period of time as well. So it has quite a positive effect with the patient.
The new treatment is twice as expensive as standard dressings, but Paul says it speeds up recovery and in the end will save money. Graham Satchell, BBC News.
Tired of being alone, from Al Green. Steve has been in touch in Cheadle. He says, I'm looking forward to getting my fishing rod out. I'm looking forward to going to the coach to Burnley tomorrow, stopping off for a pint or 3 on the way and witnessing a cup upset. Hope it turns out that way. Up the Vale, says Bert. Julie in Stafford's looking forward to her 40th on the 18th of January. Happy birthday for you. And Jean in Stafford is looking forward to going to the Stoke versus Liverpool game with her Canadian partner Fred on the 2nd of February. Keep them coming, 01782 208 008.
BBC Radio Stoke.
Loving where you live.
Bees are amazing. We don't think about them that often, I suppose, but they buzz around making honey that we love to then spread on our toast. But they also support the whole ecosystem that our lives depend on. And that's why there's so much concern when they're not very well. Now, bees have helped develop a new treatment for wounds that won't heal. The man who invented the pregnancy test, Professor Paul Davies, has designed a new bandage which he claims heals wounds better and more quickly than anything else. But the whole thing is based on the chemistry of honey, and it's being tested at the moment on patients in Stafford. Julie Stanton is a specialist in tissue viability at South Staffordshire Primary Care Trust. I think it means she's an expert in wounds. We'll find out, so we'll talk to her now. Morning, Julie.
Good morning.
So are you a sort of wound person?
Yes,
Okay.
basically dealing with all sorts of wounds.
Things that won't heal properly, that kind of thing.
Yes, chronic wounds.
Okay, so the stuff that won't go away despite whatever you try and put on it. This new bandage, then, based on the chemistry of honey, how good is it?
It actually works in about 7 out of 10 patients with long-term wounds. It's very, very effective, and you know whether it's going to work within the first 2 weeks of actually putting the product onto a patient.
And how does that compare with other methods? Because that sounds very good. 7 out of 10 sounds like a high proportion to me. And 2 weeks is quite quick, I would have thought, to get some results.
Yes, and that's the sort of the difference with this dressing compared to other dressings on the market. It really does seem to have an effect very, very quickly on very sort of indolent wounds, ones that haven't responded very well to particular treatments that we tend to use first line.
So what kind of wounds would you use it on?
We use it primarily on leg ulcers and diabetic foot ulcers. It can be used on pressure ulcers, but those are the wounds that we tend to use them on, and some surgical wounds as well.
Notoriously difficult to sort out, some particularly the ulcers, aren't they? Without going into too much detail then, how does it work? How's it different from any other dressing?
It basically works. It has 2 layers to it, a protective layer of gel and then another gel that seems to donate oxygen into the wound bed. It also contains iodine, which sort of helps clean up any sort of bacteria that are growing in the wound as well. And it basically sort of pulls oxygen into the wound bed, and oxygen basically helps with tissue repair and reduces the risk of infection.
And how does it tie into bees?
One of the chemicals actually in the dressing is produced by bees. And that's how the dressing was sort of developed.
Wow, it's amazing. Why are we testing it in Stafford?
It's basically available on drug tariff, so we use it on prescription, but we're using it with a lot of patients that have had very long-term wounds within the Staffordshire area.
Now, as I understand it, this is twice as expensive as an ordinary dressing, though. Do the books balance on this? Is it viable?
One of the things that we're hoping to do later on this year within Staffordshire is to do some research around it to see whether or not it is more cost effective to use this first line. Because obviously if it does have a positive healing effect very quickly, that makes it much more cost effective.
So at the moment you're using it more as a sort of last resort?
Yes, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. Do we actually use it first line rather than last resort?
It sounds really exciting.
It is. It's very exciting.
Because, you know, on the face of it, you think, oh, leg ulcers, they're not the sexiest thing to deal with. But actually, for people who have them, if you can sort them out and get rid of the ulcer, then their lives change completely, don't they?
Well, the quality of life for patients with chronic wounds is absolutely appalling. If you can imagine that they're socially isolating, patients don't go out, they can get huge amounts of pain from them. To actually use something that actually has a positive effect on a wound that affects the quality of life can be sort of life-changing for lots of patients.
It's fascinating. It's great to hear that it works as well. Can you treat yourself with these dressings?
You can, yes.
How clever. It sounds like, I mean, if we can get them working and get the evidence that they're working as well as your early trials suggest, it'd be brilliant. It could change the world.
Definitely.
Excellent. Something else to look forward to in 2011.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Julie, thanks for talking to us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Julie Stanton from the South Staffordshire Primary Care Trust. So if you've got leg ulcers or some of the other ulcers that Julie was talking about, and you come under that Primary Care Trust in South Staffordshire, they may want to try these new dressings on it. And if it makes your life better, can only be a good thing, can't it? News update on the way.